2022 was a big year for comics. We got so many cool comic books, and one that I really hated. Yeah, like there was one comic book that was a real stinker. Tell you what, if this video gets 200 views, I'll go ahead and talk about it. But like I said, 2022 had so many good comics that we could actually make a top 10 list of my favorite comics from the year. Now, of course, like any year, there are a bajillion comic books released, and everyone's going to have a different top 10, so go ahead and tell me your favorites in the comments below. But let's go ahead and roll into my list. Starting in at number 10 was Star Wars Hyperspace Adventures. This comic book made it onto the list not so much for the overall quality of it, but because of where it comes from. You see, when Disney bought out Lucasfilm and bought Star Wars, first thing they did was they started production on a whole bunch of movies without planning them. But the second thing they did was they gave the video game license to probably the worst company they possibly could have given the video game license to, who then made so many controversial choices that, like, actual governments had to come in and decide whether or not it was okay. But the third thing they did was they took away the comic book license and gave it to Marvel, which isn't the worst thing, but they took it away from Dark Horse, and Dark Horse just, they understood the assignment. Let's just put it at that. They knew exactly what they needed to do with the Star Wars license, and they made some incredible stuff. Dare I say, the best era of Star Wars stories came from Dark Horse's comic books. And in 2021, they did mention that they decided to split up the comic book license, and they were going to give Dark Horse the opportunity to start making some more Star Wars comics. And what they were allowed to make was a book called Hyperspace Adventures. Now, this is a series of one-shot, episodic Star Wars stories taking place across the entirety of the saga. And it doesn't ever get too deep into it, but I love that it happened this year, just for the fact that Dark Horse got a hold of the Star Wars license, and that just, it felt like returning home in a lot of ways. Number 9 was Survival Street. This was a really interesting book. So the premise of it is that everything has become privatized and is owned by a business, and the Muppets from Sesame Street, they're a parody of the Muppets from Sesame Street, but they're a bunch of Muppets from a kid's show in any case. They become this ragtag group of freedom fighters trying to liberate the world and the United States from these corporations that have completely taken it over. It was a cool book. It was a cool read. It was an interesting commentary on everything that's happening in the world today, and it's a cool book. Very cool book. Go ahead and check it out if you're interested in looking into some like third-party stuff, because it was interesting as crud. Such a good book. Number 8, Bill and Ted Roll the Dice. This was fun. So in the second Bill and Ted movie, Bill and Ted defeated Satan, and in Roll the Dice, what happens is Satan tries to get his revenge by transporting Bill and Ted into a Dungeons and Dragons labyrinth. And they have to play Dungeons and Dragons to get out and become the greatest rock stars in the world. And that was fun. It was a fun romp through Bill and Ted, a movie series that I genuinely just really love watching. Number 7 is The Mandalorian. This was very fun. I'm so happy that they started adapting the series, the Disney Plus series, into comic books. And that's what this is. It's a straight adaptation of the individual episodes. It's really great art, really good adaptation. It's at number 7 though, because I really hope that in the future they'll be able to branch out outside of the stories that were established in the series already. I want to see some original tales starring the Mandalorian and Grogu and all of the side characters and what they've all been up to and what that all means. But the fact that I can't get The Mandalorian on a home release, but I can get the comic book that covers the same content, it's great stuff. I love the comic. It's been a lot of fun. Number 6 was Edge of Spider-Verse. This was cool. We're leading up to a third, and they hint that it's the final, but I don't think I believe that. A third Spider-Verse event within the comics. And Edge of Spider-Verse is the little 5-issue miniseries that led up to the Spider-Verse event that's happening in the year of 2022 and continuing on into this year. The premise of it is that it's going through the multiverse and it's introducing different Spider-Man spin-off heroes to kind of catch you up to speed with who's going to be important within the next Spider-Verse event. And it's at number 6 because there were some that I really just did not care about in this story. And all of the ones that we knew from beforehand, like Spider-Man Noir and The Amazing Spider-Ham, they all get they kind of get whammied a little bit by the bad guys. So you go into it knowing that fan favorites aren't going to mean a whole lot. But they added Disney Princess Spider-Man, and I fell in love with her instantly. So, yeah, this gets the number 6 spot. In the number 5 spot, we actually have the Spider-Verse event, and the book just simply titled Spider-Man. And it's not distracting, and it's a fun story, it's a fun read. We get to see a lot of fun Spider-Man variants we don't see very often. I loved seeing Atari Spider-Man. He was probably my favorite of the bunch so far, aside from Disney Princess Spider-Man. Disney Princess Spider-Man is fantastic. Anyway, so yeah, number 5 was Spider-Man. Number 4, Han Solo and Chewbacca. You like heist movies? I like heist movies. You like cowboys? I like cowboys. Han Solo and Chewbacca is a heist movie starring cowboys in space. Very cool book, very fun read. Has a lot of twists and turns, which is exciting to see. We've seen Han Solo's beginning and end in the movies, and still I'm surprised and anticipating the turns and events throughout this book, even though I know it has to end okay, and it's great to see that. They did a good job with that book. I'm excited to keep reading it. Number 3, The Amazing Spider-Man got a new number 1 this year, and holy cow, is it great. Not only did we get John Romita Jr. back in the artist chair, which, dare I say, the best era of Spider-Man that I've read was when he was drawing it. So it's so much fun to go back and see that same kind of art going on. I love it. But beyond the art, the story is really fascinating. We get to see a whole other side to Norman Osborn that I wasn't expecting to see. We get to see Peter Parker in situations that are so different than how I imagine his life situation would be. Plus, on top of all of that, we get huge events like this whole dark web thing they're doing as of recording this video, and leading into the Spider-Verse stuff, and the new super cool Spider-Man Goblin style armor costume that he has. Very cool. I've been loving the book. Go ahead and check it out. Once the dark web wraps up, we're going to hop into a whole new story arc. It's going to be fun, it's going to be fast, it's going to be great. Oh, I should also mention that at the beginning of this book, in the early issues 1 through however many, we got to interact with Tombstone. Tombstone was the big villain, and I love it when Spider-Man will branch away from the characters involved with the Sinister Six and show us some new content from some old characters that we haven't really seen a whole lot of from. Number 2, Dark Knights of Steel. What happens when you take all of your favorite DC characters and you put them into a Dungeons and Dragons style fantasy? We have a few Dungeons and Dragons stuff happening here. I wonder if the movie had any influence on that decision. It's high fantasy and superheroes. We get a bunch of sci-fi elements from the alien characters. We get a whole bunch of this almost Robin Hood thing from Batman and the Robins. It's the best that Elseworlds could have offered, and I love it. It's so fun. And it's going to wrap up this year in 2023. I'm excited to see how it wraps up. There's a reason why they've had to go back and reprint the first few issues of this so many times. It is phenomenal. Go ahead and check it out. And the number 1 comic that I read in 2022 has to be 100% without a doubt World's Finest. So it's fascinating and just so much fun and such a relief to see Batman and Superman work together well, and fight the bad guys. We had that first story arc where it was a mystical bad guy from the past that was trying to take over the future and take over people's minds, and then we have this current story arc where this teenage superhero from another dimension shows up and Superman tries to take him under his wing, and that's really fun to see. It's just been winning all the way through. If you haven't been picking up World's Finest, go out there, check out World's Finest, and check out the other books on this list, because holy cow, it's been a good year for comics. I'm really excited to see what the next year will bring up. Based on how January's going, it's going to lead us to some good places. So hey, like I said, thank you for joining me on this little retrospective on what happened in the last year. I'd love to hear what books were your favorite during this year. It's like I said, there's tons of comics being released all the time. I can't possibly cover them all, but I would love to hear what you've been up to. So go ahead and put it in the comments below. Tell us what kind of jelly you like on your peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And yeah, share this around, share this video around and like it and all that stuff, because like I said, if we get up to low number 200 views on this video, I'll go ahead and tell you what the worst comic of 2022 is. Because holy cow, do I have thoughts on that. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good incentive to share the video. That's a good one. Good job. Good job, Taylor. Anyway, do all that stuff, and until next time, thank you for joining me, have a great day, and remember to always be your best self.